Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, it's Pride Month. Also, serving Alabama's military. And Republicans are saying it's a banana republic.
It's time to play High School Liars Club. And here's your host.
And they're the nuts. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and Josh Moon, columnist and investigative reporter at APR. Welcome.
Hey y'all.
Hey, y'all.
June is Pride Month, LGBTQ Pride Month, and it is commemorating the accomplishments within the gay community, their strides to be accepted, also the challenges ahead. It is a time of celebration, remembrance, and also acknowledgement that there's more work to be done. Here in Alabama, that's certainly true. Our legislature has worked to curtail LGBTQ rights. Not only did they try to punish the History and Archives for having a 1-hour event celebrating the history of gay men and women in Alabama, but the books in libraries and public libraries are being ripped from the shelves every day because these people, these small-minded people, want to remove and erase gay history. Susan, Alabama is home to a rich history of gay, transgender, lesbian, bisexual individuals. I would say one of the people currently at the pinnacle of their career is Tim Cook, who is the chief executive officer of Apple, the largest, most prosperous company in the world. And he doesn't really want to have anything to do with Alabama because the way he was treated here as a child, but also as he had been treated as an executive, and the way the state has harnessed all its power of government to harm LGBTQ people.
Now, any of these, Rockin' to the Stars people that got, they got on these shows and they were, the best vocalists in the country. And we praise them, but we put aside people like Laverne Cox, Truman Capote, Nell Carter, Jim Neighbors. All from out, and that's just a few of people that have really risen to a pinnacle of a career and got completely ignored as being Alabama natives.
I mean, Josh, it says something about our culture in that, we do have pioneers like Truman Capote. We do have outstanding performers like Nell Carter. Ma Rainey, who is one of the originators of the blues, is from Alabama, yet that history is not celebrated here because of and Laverne Cox, the first transgender woman of color to ever star in a major television show. But we have people here that want to erase those folks from history, from the face of the earth. So Josh, what's your take on this situation?
Well, I think that what we have in our state is there's a whole lot of people that want to eliminate any mentions of LGBTQ folks. They want to because there's a level of fear there. There's a level of self-loathing, I think, among some of the people, and there's a level of and I think the fear is more rooted in the fact that they somehow or another believe still today that being gay is a choice.
Yeah, right,
You know,
right.
I don't know when any of them chose to be straight,
Right,
but
right.
being gay is a choice. And so they believe that if you expose children to things like LGBTQ themed books and stuff of that nature, that it will turn their kids gay,
Yeah.
you know, which is obviously absurd and also very, very harmful, because what it does, and we see this in the state all the time, is it tells these kids who are gay that they're wrong for being that way.
Right, right.
And it creates within them these deep depressions and all sorts of mental issues that they have to work through, and leads to very high rates of suicide and self-harming, and just very unhappy people until they, like Tim Cook, can get the hell out of here and go to places that are more accepting and just live the life that they want to live as you know, normal adults. And that's, it's a shame that it's that way in this state. It really, really is.
And, you know, we know lawmakers who vote for all this craziness and then come around and say, you know, man, I don't believe this stuff. I'm not like that. I'm not like that.
Then vote the way you believe.
Yeah.
Don't vote the way everybody else. You know, it's like peer pressure when you were in high school. I mean, you're not in high school anymore.
Right.
Vote your conscience.
Yeah. I mean, if everyone stood up, and I believe that if one person stood up or two people stood up, then people might stand up behind them. But then on the other hand, you have these phony organizations like 1819 News that are funded by dark money. They don't expose who their money comes from. They're led by a former felon who got Jesus, supposedly. And this past week, they ran an op-ed by a woman who said that they prayed that God would stop pride in Mobile. And she claimed that a tornado and a storm that was destructive was God's way of stopping pride down the Pride March down in Mobile. Now, if your God is killing people and destroying property, I think you need to arrest him, because in Alabama, in the United States, we have laws against people destroying property and things like that. And if you're praying for that God or to that God, there's something wrong with you, because there's no love in your heart then.
Absolutely. She may have the wrong God, because that's not certainly not the one I know.
Well, anyway, I want to move on to this next issue. Josh, I'm going to hit you with this. A study that came out of the Washington Post found that 90% of the money coming out of these voucher programs around the country, the big ones, are going to religious schools.
Oh, shock. Oh, shock.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't say.
Oh, I do say.
Yeah, you know, listen, it's this is, I still don't understand how this is legal. I still don't understand how courts have determined that this can be a legal use of funds, that we can take public dollars and send those public dollars, public tax dollars, to religious themed private businesses. I don't care that they're educational institutions. I don't care that they're also educating children. They are religious-based organizations, and that should always be a no-no. I don't care what religion it is. I don't care what they practice and how they practice and how good they are. That's not where we should be sending our money, because I don't necessarily believe what they believe. Someone else may not believe what I believe, and that's fine. We're in America where we're all free. And if we're going to pay for public education, we need to pay for public education and not religious indoctrination.
I agree, but we're going to have to leave it right there. We might get to that again when we look at the Supreme Court. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Abraham Lincoln famously said, "A house divided itself against itself cannot stand." And he was referring to the nation being half slave, half free. Today, that sentiment, that bold declaration by Abraham Lincoln resonates because the country is deeply divided. Former President Donald Trump is a convicted felon. That die has been cast. Now, there are those who believe that that was a fair verdict by a jury of his peers in the state court of New York. There are others, Republicans, who are saying that it was rigged. And of course, the former president says that every time he can. And that somehow Joe Biden and his Justice Department had some sway over that proceeding. Now, there's no evidence to that, but we see a lot of this today where we have statements made without evidence. Now, we've had people from Alabama, politicians, say that our judicial system is a banana republic, that it is broken, that we need to go to war over this thing because of the judicial system is wrong. Now, let me answer that one with this. If we are a banana republic, the president's son, Hunter Biden, would not be on trial right now in a Delaware court. Now, they're going to come back with some conspiracy theory that he's going to get out of it because it's the president's son. But we do not live in a banana republic, but we live in a time where, Susan, Republicans are tearing this nation apart for one man, and that is the former president, Donald Trump. There are plenty of people who do not believe that verdict, but the recent polling, and we don't know if this will hold, but the majority of Americans believe that that was a fair verdict and it was a fair trial.
And I thought it couldn't get any scarier in the country, but it has. We're talking about the basis of our democracy, our judicial system, something that we've cherished since the beginning. You talk Biden, he's in charge of the DOJ, but not at state level. This was a state case with 12 jurors that were also chosen by Trump's attorneys. They came back with what they thought was a fair verdict. We're supposed to respect that verdict in any form or fashion that it comes, because that's the way our system works.
I mean, Josh, we've all covered jury trials where many of us thought, what in the heck were they doing back there? Because, you could see at least the evidence, and because we had reported on certain aspects of the trial, we could see things, but somehow the jury came back and saw it differently. We did not march in the streets and blood was not shed because we disagreed with the verdict that a jury came back with. We know there are lots of jury verdicts that are tainted by prosecutors and such and such and such. But this did not appear to be that. But even if it was that, which I do not believe it is, the kind of vitriol that's being leveled at the justice system is simply to tear it down so people have no faith.
Yeah, let's be clear. What took place in that courtroom prior to the start of that trial was the selection of a jury, and there were hundreds of people that were brought in from a pool of registered voters in the general area of that county. And they came into that courtroom, and lawyers from both sides and the judge questioned them about their biases and their beliefs and what they held. And all the sides agreed. They struck certain jurors. They've seated other jurors, and they put them on there, and no one objected to the jury. in this trial. No one objected to the jury. No one said after it was selected that these jurors are going to be unfair to this to Donald Trump. Nobody said, "Oh, look, they're all wearing Biden shirts," when they came in. It didn't happen. And so what we have again is another example of this cult that is taking over the country. And that's what we have with these people. They have been willing to tear down our election system and scream that it was rigged. Now we're going to tear down the justice system and scream that it was rigged. They attempted to rig the electoral college system and create fake electors to come in and keep Donald Trump in power. For the first time ever, a president wouldn't leave the White House. Okay. This has never happened before. And it's all part of the history of Donald Trump. Every time he loses, it's rigged against him, starting with the discrimination in housing case that he had in the 70s, up through the phony university that he had, all through the fraud through his charities, the multiple fraud cases in his businesses. He's been sued more than 4,000 times prior to becoming a candidate for office. This is a man who is a con man. And they continue to believe this because these people are in a cult.
Susan, I think I understand Josh's passion. I think back to the Mike Hubbard case. It was tried in Auburn, which is his where he lived, and that. But it could have gone to Montgomery. There was a thought that it could have gone to Montgomery, and people said, well, he'll never get a fair trial in Montgomery, which they meant that he would have an advantage in Auburn. And so Matt Hart and those guys tried the case in Auburn, and a jury of his peers, people that were from that area, that knew Mike Hubbard, that drove on Mike Hubbard Boulevard, convicted him. They convicted him even though he was a powerful, powerful politician. So we do have examples of juries of people's peers doing just that.
You bring up Mike Hubbard, and this case was very similar to the Hubbard case in certain aspects because it had to do with campaign finance. And in the Trump trial, you had Exhibit 34 and 35, which is where they were breaking down how the money was going to go. Then you had the checks signed by Donald Trump. Same thing in the Hubbard case. You just follow the money. You see the checks that were written to him. You see, the vouchers and whatever. So they're very similar. And so the verdicts ended up being very similar.
Yeah. Now, I think what we've seen here, though, and I think Josh is right, and I think that the problem is we have politicians who do not believe this. But this is back to the thing we were talking about, the LGBTQ. They do not believe this, but they are so terrified of the MAGA base and losing elections that they do this. But I would submit that if the twin pillars of justice and equality fall in this country, there's no country left. It doesn't exist anymore, not in the form that we would understand it.
Well, and you can see that this is an orchestrated effort because you see the same words coming out of different people's, different politicians' mouths. It's the same words. Yes. It's banana republic. It's rigged. It's, a travesty. It's the same exact words coming out of multiple mouths.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
My personal biggest pet peeve is kids who are not properly restrained, whether that be in a booster seat, a car seat, or even a simple seatbelt. Kids, they become projectiles, and it's terrifying.
It absolutely breaks my heart to know that something so innocent could be punished so severely.
Your children rely on you to be that person that says, no, you need to put your seatbelt on.
125 to 620. As a paramedic, you wouldn't believe the things that we've seen.
I've seen all types of horrible things.
I mean, we're there basically picking up the pieces from your worst day.
Everyone is just driving and not paying attention.
We all have the same goal. All of us want to go home alive and safe and harm nobody else in the process.
Slow down. Be careful. Care about the other people on the road. Don't be the reason that someone else doesn't go home tonight.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. You know, we are a very pro-military state. Now, I think that's a good thing.
I do too.
I think that's a very good thing. We just celebrated the 80th anniversary of D-Day, and that changed the course of World War II. And many men and women,
our fathers included,
served in that war, and that generation is almost past. There are very few of those people left behind. One of the things I've always liked about Alabama, loved about Alabama, is that our Veterans Day, our Memorial Day, you always see people honored at the courthouse, on the town square, and all that. A package of 10 pro-military bills, Josh, was passed this legislative session, and they are meant to encourage military families to come here, to live here, to work here. We will not say about the fact that if they become pregnant here and do not want to have a child, that they will have to go to another state, in which our Attorney General would like to prosecute them for crossing state lines to do what is perfectly legal in another state. But again, beyond the dishonorable people like Tommy Tuberville, we do honor our veterans, and these packages, Josh, I think are a good way to show that we put our money where our mouth is.
Yeah, I agree. I've said a lot of times, I don't think we do enough. We send these guys over to a lot of places, and women. I shouldn't just say guys, men and women. We send over to places that none of us want to go, to do things that none of us want to do, and they do it, and we make promises to them, and we've got a pretty poor track record of keeping those promises. I'm not talking about the state of Alabama. I'm talking about the country as a whole. We love to march in the parades and do wave the flag and stuff and talk about our pro-military stuff, but sometimes we don't necessarily carry through on the promises that we have for the education the education funds that we promised them, the housing funds. Right now, there's still housing issues on some of the bases around Alabama. So I hope that this is some of the first steps in a long line of things that will make life better and easier for these people, at least in the state of Alabama.
Well, Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth, of course, Governor Kay Ivey, and the legislature worked very hard on this. I mean, most of this came out of a group that Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth put together. But this is important for military families and military folks here. I just wish they would honor all the military, not just the ones they choose.
Right. Well, I'm excited about this because it goes to educational opportunities for veterans coming back, vocational opportunities. And one of the things that's near and dear to my heart is mental health issues within the military. For those of us who have lived with someone suffering from PTSD, you have a different understanding of how important that aspect is. And we have a friend that is near and dear to us right now whose husband is suffering terribly, and we're beginning to see the cracks in the system where the mental health facilities are not available for him. So for them to be able to put this in there, just really exciting.
I think this is, again, if you want to tell what someone really cares about, it's where do they put their money? Where do they put the funds? And if you really care about the military, then you got to give them the money to take care of them. And this means mental health, physical health, housing, education, all those things. I was reading this other day, remembering D-Day, how many of the men and women who came back from World War II had the GI Bill. And that enabled them to go to college, to buy homes, to do things that really spurred the middle class like it never had before. I mean, Josh, many of these men and women had never traveled more than 25 miles outside their own home. And all of a sudden they are all around the world, and they are serving with men and women who are totally different than them. And it changed the United States for much better, made it much better.
Yeah, I would, do need to point out that it wasn't available for all military members when they came back, depending on skin color. But I will; those folks that's not a knock on any of those people. Do not misunderstand me. What they did in Normandy and at Guadalcanal and a variety of different places, Iwo Jima, I mean, it's a remarkable feat of just superhuman performance and bravery and it's why a lot of people aren't speaking German today. You know, I mean, honestly, it really is. And those sacrifices in that war and in subsequent wars, and it's remarkable to go back and read and watch the documentaries and things about what they did and how they did it and the bravery that they showed, and it's really, really inspiring. It really is.
You know, and right now the country is at relatively peace. You know, Tolstoy said that in war young men die, and in peace old men die, and we have relative peace right now. The other thing that I'm just deeply discouraged about is that our Republican friends who were so supportive of the military in the past, many of them have turned their back on Ukraine. And that is a situation where if Russia takes over Ukraine, the whole of Europe will be in danger. And yet we have numpties like Tommy Tuberville and Barry Moore and some of those phonies up there who do not want to continue to fund Ukraine.
Well, you know, it goes to, I don't know if it's their education level or if it's their, you know, world experience or what it is, but it's quite clear if they take over Ukraine, it's going to involve Europe, which is going to get boots on the ground from the United States. I mean, that's painfully clear. Do they not see that? Are they not paying attention? Have they not read? Did they not show up for history class?
Well, I don't think they did. And again, we go back to Donald Trump. He wants to make a deal with Putin, which means giving Putin Ukraine. But Josh, you can have the last word on this.
Yeah, I mean, I saw Tommy Tuberville essentially try to rewrite recent history and say that, you know, Putin has always wanted peace. And they invaded Ukraine.
That's rich. I
mean, they invaded Ukraine.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, you know, they didn't have to invade Ukraine. They invaded Ukraine. It's just, I would say, I don't know if they don't know their world history or if they're compromised at some level or what. I don't know. But I mean, I think some hard questions need to be asked to some of these people that are now supporting a dictator.
Well,
openly.
I would say that those who were members of the greatest generation who fought in World War II and who wanted to turn around and fight the communists.
They wanted to go into Russia after that.
They did not want to let the Cold War happen because they saw what was going to happen in Eastern Europe. And today, these lily-livered Republicans do not want to finance letting someone else fight a war to keep our guys and our women out of fighting a war. But that ain't your daddy's Republican Party. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.